I was at the top when one moment everything went wrong. I found myself in a situation from which, like I thought, was no escape. Wait until the end to see how it's ended. It started off as nothing, just a tiny moment most people would forget before dessert was even served. We were at Mark and Janelle's Christmas dinner, the house buzzing with wine-fueled cheer and someone's terrible rendition of Last Christmas on a Bluetooth mic. I was talking about my job, how my boss had pushed for our year-end bonuses even after the company slashed budgets. I barely finished the sentence when Lindsay, my wife, cut in with a laugh. "Oh, what's his name again? Barry? Brad?" "I always forget," she said. People laughed. Even I forced a chuckle. But something about her tone lodged in my skull, sharp and strange. She looked annoyed, like she couldn't stand hearing me talk about work. Then just like that, she switched the topic to some influencer who hiked Machu Picchu barefoot. It was seamless, too smooth, and it didn't sit right. After that night, little things kept building. I'd mention something about my day, something minor like a meeting or a project, and she'd glaze over. Not in a distracted way. It was colder than that. Distant. Like anything I said about my life bored her to the point of disgust. Once, when I brought up a potential promotion, she physically winced, like the idea of me getting ahead made her stomach twist. I tried to shrug it off, told myself everyone drifts in long marriages, that maybe she was going through something. But the truth is, I didn't feel like her husband anymore. I felt like a stand-in, a placeholder in someone else's movie. She still cooked dinner, still kissed the kids goodnight, but the warmth was missing. The conversations felt automated. Something had shifted, quietly but completely. Then a few days after Christmas, I was in the garage digging through old bins, trying to find a missing string of lights. That's when I found it, the wedding box. Stuff we'd saved from the big day, old cards, our napkin doodles from the reception, dried petals from her bouquet. At the bottom I found what used to be our wedding card, or at least the remains of it. She had cut it up, sliced it into pieces and folded it into a paper bird, a clean little origami thing made from the words we once wrote to each other. Right across the wing was one word scrawled in thick black ink. Free. My stomach turned. I sat there, crouched over the box, holding that damn bird like it might unfold into an explanation. But it just stared back at me, hollow and silent. Why would she do that? Why now? It wasn't art. It wasn't cute. It was a message, and not for me. That night she came home late. Blamed the roads. She didn't notice the wedding box was open, didn't ask why I was still awake, didn't even look me in the eye. I watched her plug in her phone and turn it face down before walking off toward the shower. I didn't ask anything. I just watched and remembered what it felt like when I used to know who I was living with. A few nights later, our son asked if we could go on one of those late bike rides again, just the two of us, with lights on our wheels and the whole neighborhood empty. I said sure, thought the quiet would help me clear my head. But halfway through the ride, my front tire cracked. The rim gave out and the whole bike jolted hard. We walked the rest of the way home laughing about it, at least until we stepped inside. The music hit us first, loud and heavy, bass pulsing through the floor, not something we ever played in the house. I told my son to take his stuff to his room while I checked what was going on. That's when I saw the shoes. Black dress shoes, polished, expensive looking, tossed near the front mat. Not mine. That part landed fast, cold and clear. I stared at them for a second, then moved down the hall toward the bedroom. The door was cracked open. She was standing in front of a tripod, wearing a sheer black dress I'd never seen before. Her makeup was done like she was headed for a photo shoot, but she wasn't looking at a mirror. She was looking straight into the lens of a camera. The laptop on the nightstand was open. From it came a man's voice, deep and casual. "Take it off again." She froze when she saw me. Everything unraveled at once. She screamed, scrambled to cover herself, knocked over the tripod. The laptop slammed shut. Her face twisted in panic and guilt. But I didn't scream. I didn't even ask who he was. I turned around, walked down the hall, and told my son we were going out again. He asked why. I told him we'd grab milkshakes. Something stupid, something that didn't match the weight in my chest. We left without a word. But something had shifted in me, fast and final. This wasn't just a mistake. This wasn't random. That paper bird hadn't been a weird coincidence. She was planning something. Or maybe she already had. And now I'd seen the edge of it. Not the whole picture, but just enough to know this wasn't going away. I had a feeling I was about to find out just how far down the hole went. The morning after everything broke open, the house felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain. Lindsay moved through it like nothing had happened, making eggs, folding clothes, talking to the kids in that careful, pleasant voice she used around strangers. Not once did she mention the music, the camera, the man's voice from the laptop. She didn't look at me, not really, and I didn't press her, not yet. She still played the part of wife and mother, but I could see it now. She was acting. Not for me, not even for the kids, but for something else entirely. Some performance she had no intention of canceling. Later that day, while she was upstairs reading with our daughter, I slipped into the bedroom and opened her nightstand. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I found it. A small USB drive, unmarked, wedged behind a pile of receipts. I didn't plug it in until the next morning, sitting alone in my office at work with the door locked and the blinds drawn. Video files, dozens. Lindsay in different outfits, sometimes in the bedroom, sometimes in the back seat of our SUV. And always the same voice, commanding, calm, male. Take it off again. I didn't make it through more than 2 or 3. My hands shook. I yanked the drive and hid it deep in my briefcase. My chest was pounding so hard it felt like I was vibrating inside my own skin. This wasn't just some flirty online thing. This was targeted, intimate, dangerous. She wasn't performing for random strangers. She was performing for him. She finally spoke to me that night, told me it was a stupid mistake with a follower from some private page she ran on the side. She acted ashamed, like she was confessing to a harmless secret. But her eyes, there was no fear in them, just control. She wasn't telling the truth. She was measuring how much I knew. That night, after she fell asleep, I dug deeper. I used tools from an old network security course and recovered what she thought she'd deleted. What I found flipped everything. The man's name was Jared Sorrell, financial advisor. I'd seen him before, at neighborhood barbecues, fundraising events, even our kids' school auction night. Always smiling, always too polished. I'd never liked him. Now I had a reason. Lindsay had been transferring money to him. Thousands of dollars siphoned from our kids' education fund, tucked into investment schemes that didn't exist. And worse, there were emails between them, messages that spelled out a plan. We'll say he's emotionally unstable. Custody evals are easy if we plant the right signs. Almost there. Just stay calm. They were planning to erase me, legally, financially, from our kids' lives. I remember sitting there in the dark, staring at the screen, breathing through my teeth. There were also PDFs, fake signatures, guardianship forms I'd never seen, one labeled draft narrative, like they were writing a script where I lost before I even knew we were playing. I didn't panic. I got calculated. First, I booked sessions with a licensed psychologist, told him it was a workplace stress thing. After 3 appointments, I had a certificate of emotional stability and 0 signs of mental issues. Solid proof. Then I visited her mother. I brought a voice recorder in my coat pocket, kept it casual. Over tea, I nudged the conversation toward Lindsay's past. Her mom didn't need much prompting. I told her not to get into these games again, she said, sighing into her mug. But she always ruins everything. Always chasing something new. That was all I needed. I printed it all. Emails, bank records, forged documents, the psychologist's statement, even the quote from her mother. I put it in a folder and left it on the kitchen table. The next morning, Lindsay was gone. No text, no note, just gone. A few clothes missing, her toothbrush, and the scent of something cold and final. 48 hours passed. Then I got a call from a friend of a friend. She'd been spotted at a mountain cabin near the state line with Jared. But what she didn't know was that Jared was already under federal investigation. Money laundering, fraud, wire transfers tied to offshore shell companies. The feds had been watching, and now with Lindsay appearing in one of the flagged accounts, she became a person of interest. That evening, the cabin was raided. Lindsay was arrested on site. They pulled her out in handcuffs. It made the news in one county. I watched the clip twice. Still, I didn't let myself relax, because something told me this was only the surface. Lindsay's arrest didn't bring closure. It brought the next move. She made bail quietly, no press, no mugshot online, just a line in a forgotten court log. She didn't come home, didn't call, but I didn't expect her to. What came instead was a formal petition from her lawyer claiming I coerced her into the financial decisions that led to Jared's arrest. Said I'd emotionally manipulated her. They attached forged texts in a digitally signed statement that I never wrote. She was trying to flip it, rewrite the script. According to her version, I wasn't the husband she'd betrayed. I was the mastermind. I didn't flinch. I'd already seen worse. I took everything I'd gathered, the USB drive, the emails, the video, and brought it to my lawyer. He read in silence until I showed him the footage where Lindsay, half drunk and laughing on a call with Jared, said, "If something goes wrong, I'll say Aaron made me do it. He's so easy to frame." My lawyer didn't even pause. "That's the coffin nail," he said. "Let her try." But Lindsay still had cards to play. She filed an appeal, now claiming Jared manipulated her, that she was just a witness, not a co-conspirator. She was trying to shift into victim mode, hoping the feds would overlook her role and focus on him. But then I got a call from someone unexpected, a federal investigator building a case against Jared. He'd heard I might have more evidence linking Lindsay directly to the scheme. At first I hesitated. Handing over everything would bury her. But then I remembered the forged messages, the lies about my mental state, the damn origami bird with free slashed across our wedding vows. She wasn't a pawn. She was playing every angle, and I was just the fool who stayed too long in the game. So I gave them the drive. That night, I sat on the couch, kids asleep upstairs, trying to make sense of how far this had all gone. The woman I built a family with had turned our home into a front for betrayal and control. It wasn't about love anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. The next morning, everything changed again. My inbox exploded. Turns out a video I made months ago, a dry speech on financial fraud in families, given under a fake name, had gone viral. 3 million views overnight. I had no idea how or why, but it struck a chord. People started sharing their stories in the comments. Heartbreak, deception, stolen savings. One comment stood out. A woman from another state recognized Jared. She said he'd scammed her out of $40,000 using the same tactics. Fake trusts, offshore accounts, fake stability. She'd reported it once and been ignored. But now after the video, her case was reopened. That tip sealed it. The case against me was officially dropped. All charges gone. No reviews, no custody evaluations. Just silence. And then Jared was arrested trying to leave the state. The federal case expanded fast. More victims, more evidence. Lindsay's involvement, now undeniable, came under full scrutiny. Her story unraveled in days, but even then she didn't quit. She called from a blocked number. I didn't answer. Then came the voicemail. Her voice was calm. "Software. Aaron, we've both changed. I don't want the kids to grow up hating me. I'm not asking to come back. Just a conversation." Then came the real message, an email offering silence. No court battles, no public statements, no press. In exchange, she wanted visitation, a few weekends, some holidays, enough to still be in their lives. I read it once, then typed back 2 words. "You disappeared, and I meant it." The silence didn't mean surrender, not with Lindsay. After her arrest, there were no messages, no apologies, just an eerie stillness like the eye of a storm. She was calculating, waiting, and sure enough, something showed up a week later. A manila envelope on my doorstep with no return address. Inside were court documents, new ones. She was trying to reopen custody, armed with a paid psychological report that painted me as emotionally distant and authoritarian. It was a hit job dressed in clinical language. She'd taken every calm rule I enforced after she vanished, every curfew, every structured bedtime, and twisted it into supposed trauma. The judge didn't rule, but agreed to a hearing. I had 1 week. That night I didn't sleep. I reviewed every piece of evidence again, every email, every file, every quiet recording. I went back through old hallway camera footage, but I knew I needed more. Something stronger. So I went to her mother's house one last time. No recorder. Just me. I warned her, her mom said. She keeps doing this. Draws people in, burns it all down, and leaves like she was the one hurt. She admitted Lindsay had pulled something similar before, years ago, with another man. Tried to use the same guardianship playbook. That case never went to trial, but this time I was ready. That night I recorded a full testimonial video. Just me, explaining the timeline, the manipulation, and the evidence. I attached digital files, emails, a notarized affidavit from her mother. The judge received it within 24 hours. The hearing would proceed, but now both sides would be evaluated. I wasn't being cornered anymore. 2 days before the court date, I got a call from a neighbor I barely knew. He said he saw a black SUV parked across from the house 2 nights ago. Said Lindsay was behind the wheel just sitting there. She didn't get out, didn't knock. I checked the security footage, nothing. She knew the blind spots. I didn't tell the kids, just started walking the perimeter every night and sleeping with one ear open. Then came the second envelope. No return label. Just a USB drive inside. One file. Audio only. I played it. It was Lindsay and Jared, recorded before everything collapsed. She was calm, deliberate. If it comes to court, I'll say he hit me, she said. I'll say he yelled at the kids. That's all it takes, right? I'll cry. It'll work. Jared laughed. It's more than enough. I listened to it 3 times. Then I sat in the dark, jaw clenched, not because I was shocked, but because I wasn't. She had planned to destroy me before I even knew I was in a fight. The day of the hearing, I showed up early, clean, ready. I brought every document, every backup, every quote printed and indexed. Lindsay came in late with her lawyer. She didn't look at me once. The judge listened, watched, said very little, then made the ruling. Sole custody granted. No visitation, no appeal. Just like that, it was over. Lindsay turned and walked out of the courtroom like nothing had happened, her heels clicking against the tile until she disappeared into the hallway crowd. But it wasn't over. The next morning, the same federal agent called me. Jared's arrest had triggered an avalanche. More accounts, more victims. Offshore accounts stretching across Europe and the Caymans. And Lindsay's name was in more files than anyone expected. The agent asked if I had anything else, anything I hadn't already turned over. At first I said no. Then I remembered her voice, cold, amused, and rehearsed. He's so easy to frame. I told the agent, give me one more day. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay on the couch with the kids upstairs, lights off, screen dimmed, playing that recording over and over. Lindsay's voice was etched into my brain now. Not the version I used to know. The one that whispered goodnight in the dark, or laughed from the passenger seat with her feet on the dashboard. This voice was calculating, practiced, weaponized. If it comes to court, I'll say he hit me. She wasn't improvising. She'd rehearsed it, and now the feds wanted more. The next morning, I went back through the clone drive the IT guys had recovered months ago. I'd already pulled everything I thought mattered. Emails, transfers, PDFs. But now I was looking for something different. I searched audio files, timestamps, metadata. One folder had no name, just a string of numbers. Inside were voice memos, raw, unedited. Some were tests, others were conversations. And one was gold. She was talking to someone, sounded like a dry run for a phone call. She was outlining a plan. Jared would shift money through his dummy trust. She'd transfer the education funds. If caught, she'd blame pressure from a toxic husband. There was laughter, pacing. Her voice changed tone like she was trying out lines for a scene. I isolated the file, uploaded it to a secure cloud folder, and emailed the federal agent a private link. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. He was direct. This changes things. Later that day, news broke. Jared's offshore empire was collapsing fast. 2 more investors came forward, one a surgeon in Phoenix, another a retired teacher in Maine. Lindsay's name was listed as beneficiary on at least 3 trusts. Suddenly, she wasn't just a participant. She was being framed as a key conduit, but she didn't go quietly. She made her next move right after, filed a statement to the press, a carefully crafted open letter sent through a PR firm claiming she was a victim of coercion, isolation, and psychological intimidation. She named no one directly, but it didn't matter. The implication was clear. She was trying to paint herself as the manipulated spouse, dragged into financial crimes she didn't understand. It almost worked. For a moment, the comment sections turned. People speculated. Talk shows debated what kind of pressure drives a woman to betrayal. A hashtag started trending. #, let her speak. I watched the headlines in silence. But then came the twist. A journalist, some young reporter working for an independent outlet, reached out to me anonymously, said she'd been following the story and someone had tipped her off about a burn folder Lindsay kept on a private server. Photos, messages, recordings, insurance in case Jared ever turned on her. The folder had been hidden behind 2 VPNs and an encrypted account. The journalist didn't have access, but she had a lead on someone who did. A former tech contractor who'd worked on Jared's consulting team contacted me the next day. Said he'd seen the archive himself. Said Lindsay wasn't just involved, she was the one who helped build the shell trusts. She'd created names, sent invoices, set dates. She knew everything, he said. She's not dumb. She ran half the back end. He offered the files in exchange for immunity. I looped in the feds. Within hours, a subpoena was issued. The server was seized. And there it was. Emails from Lindsay confirming fake clients, wire transfers, false tax forms. One message even mentioned using my name on certain documents because he'll never check it. He trusts too easily. That line didn't sting. It pissed me off. Still, I didn't respond publicly. I didn't go on talk shows. Didn't post a single thing. I let the weight of the truth settle in while the rest unfolded on its own. Jared flipped. Faced with decades of federal charges, he turned informant, gave up names, deals, dates. He named Lindsay as a full partner. Her charges were reinstated: fraud, conspiracy, laundering, and obstruction. Her appeal evaporated overnight. That was when she reached out again. A message through my lawyer this time. Short, clinical. She wanted to settle everything: custody, assets, visitation, silence. In exchange, she wouldn't challenge anything in court. "It's best for the kids," she wrote. I said no. Then she tried one last tactic. She showed up at the child psychologist's office unannounced. Asked to leave a letter for our son. The receptionist refused. Lindsay waited in the parking lot for almost an hour. No scene, no shouting. Just waiting. My son never saw her. But I did. I'd driven by just to make sure things were calm, and there she was, in her car, watching, looking tired, unpolished, nothing like the woman who'd once spun lies in silk dresses and red wine smiles. She didn't see me, and I didn't stop. The next morning, my lawyer called. The federal case was closing in. Jared was going away. Lindsay's plea bargain had been rejected. She was looking at serious time now. The kids were safe. My name was clean. But it didn't feel like a win. After the final charges were filed, the noise started to fade. Jared pled out, turned everything over: names, wirepaths, offshore accounts. The entire network collapsed under its own weight. 37 accounts frozen, properties seized across 4 states, and Lindsay's name was tied to 9 of them. Her lawyer pushed for leniency, painted her as a misguided pawn. But the emails and trust documents made that impossible. She didn't just know what was happening, she helped design it. She signed papers, named fake clients, scheduled wire transfers. The prosecutors laid it out plainly. This wasn't manipulation. This was collaboration. She still tried to slip out. One last appeal. She didn't appear in person, just sent a letter. 6 pages of excuses, soft language, and a plea for supervised visitation for the children's emotional continuity. The judge didn't flinch. Request denied. After that, her name slid out of the headlines. No interviews, no statements. Jared's sentencing dominated the news cycle. She was just a footnote in his fall. And I was fine with that. Still, I didn't feel free. Not yet. I kept our routines tight, locked everything down. School, work, groceries. It was all a rhythm now. The kids were stable, even happy sometimes. Our son joined a robotics club. Our daughter started painting again. On the garage wall, she painted a giant phoenix, red, orange, and wild-eyed. It's about coming back, she told me. Some nights I sat out there in the cold, just staring at it. Then came the call. A conference organizer reached out. They'd seen the viral video, the one I made under a fake name. They asked if I'd come speak. Financial risk in domestic life, they called it. I almost said no. But something inside me, it wasn't anger, not anymore, but something harder, said yes. So I stood in front of 300 strangers and told the truth. Not the whole thing, but enough. I talked about trust, silence, and how betrayal doesn't start with lies. It starts with withdrawal, with someone checking out long before they say the words. They listened. Then they lined up. People told me stories about spouses who emptied retirement funds, siblings who forged signatures, parents who hid gambling debts behind fake trusts. I didn't have answers for them, but they weren't looking for that. They just wanted someone to believe them. A few days later, something slipped through. A message on the trailer's old tablet. No name, no reply option, just 5 words. I'm out, thinking about us. I didn't respond, didn't tell the kids, just closed the screen. We were in Utah then, parked near the edge of Bryce Canyon. Our son caught a scorpion and named it Proof. Our daughter was drawing comics again, this one about a girl with a flashlight that forced people to tell the truth. That night, we stopped at a tiny diner off the highway. A waitress with tired eyes and chipped polish smiled when she saw me. Wait, I know you, she said. You're the guy from that fraud video. I nodded. She laughed. You're not a hero, but you survived. That counts. She brought the kids free milkshakes. I sat there watching them laugh over whipped cream and cherry stems. It didn't feel like closure, but it finally felt like something else was beginning. It was midweek, clear sky, canyon air, crisp enough to bite. We'd been in Arizona for 2 weeks by then, parked near a red rock ridge the kids had started calling home base. Our daughter painted a new phoenix every few days on scrap cardboard. Our son carved makeshift tools from sticks and old zip ties. We cooked outside, slept with the windows cracked. The trailer finally felt like ours. I hadn't heard from Lindsay since that last cryptic message. I'm out, thinking about us. I never answered it. I thought maybe she was finally gone. Done. Over. But people like her don't disappear. They wait. Then the email landed. No subject line, just an attachment and 3 lines from a federal contact I hadn't spoken to in months. She tried to run. Intercepted at the border. You'll want to see the file. I opened it. Scans of travel plans, fake IDs, cash-only receipts. Lindsay had tried to vanish under another name, moving through one of Jared's old shell accounts. They caught her at the southern border, disguised, shaved head, voice altered. She wasn't fleeing in fear. She was executing a plan. Even with the charges, even after the collapse of everything, she believed she could escape it all. No note, no letter, no apology. She didn't even try to contact the kids. Later that night, I left them with a park ranger they liked and took the truck out alone. I didn't have a destination. I just drove until the sun dipped behind the cliffs and I spotted an old roadside chapel. No one was inside. The pews creaked. The altar was cracked. I sat in the back not to pray, just to breathe. I tried to make sense of it all, of her, of what she'd done. I kept asking myself the same question. Did she ever actually love us? And somewhere in the silence, the answer hit harder than any of the lies had. Yes. For a while she did. And that was the worst part, because it means it was real, before she turned it into something else. I left when the stars came out, drove back to the trailer. The kids were asleep. I sat outside and opened her last message one more time. I'm out, thinking about us. I deleted it. The next morning we packed up and kept moving. Our daughter handed me her finished comic. The girl with the flashlight. The last page showed her standing alone on a cliff, light raised high, shadows behind her melting. Underneath, she'd written, "Some people live in darkness. Some bring it. But I see them now." I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Later, we stopped at a roadside diner a few states away. Same kind of place. Chipped booths, dusty blinds, jukebox in the corner. The waitress didn't recognize me. She smiled like I was just a tired guy with two loud kids. It was perfect. "You just passing through?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "For now." Our son spilled his drink. Our daughter made a face at him. The waitress brought napkins, laughed with them. It wasn't a big moment, but it felt like the first time we weren't being chased by what came before. That's when I understood. I didn't need her to pay. I didn't need some dramatic closure. She'd already lost. She had a life, a family, real love, and she threw it away for control, for escape, for a fantasy of freedom that never existed. Now she had none of it, and we had everything that mattered. We hit the highway by nightfall, trailer in tow, kids asleep in the back. The road ahead was open and wide and clean. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was running. I felt like I was home. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.